everyone, it's Anth Predicts here. So today I'm doing my updated Senate map prediction. I kind of waited on doing this again because I didn't want to do it until I had like actual like changes or actual differences from the last one to do. But now I feel like about a month later, some things have changed, and I figured now would be a good time to do an updated map. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, make sure to like this video and subscribe. Leave a comment below telling me what you think of this and maybe your own prediction for the Senate and how you think it'll go. So I'll go how I typically start. So I go the safe states from west to east. Then I put states I think could be competitive into the toss-up column. Oregon, I don't see being competitive at all. Oregon, I think will go for the Democrats. Idaho and Wyoming will be safe for the GOP. Montana we'll come back to. South Dakota and Nebraska, I think will be safe. Kansas, we're actually going to come back to because I do want to talk about that one a little bit more. Oklahoma, I think will be safe for the Republicans. I think New Mexico actually will be safe for the Democrats. I don't really think there's a Republican candidate good enough to really make this too contested of a race. If it was someone, say, Susana Martinez, maybe, the former governor, maybe she could make it competitive, but I really don't see a Republican being able to win there. Bill Cassidy in Louisiana, that's safe. Tom Carton, oh my God, I can't talk. Tom Cotton in Arkansas, that's safe. Illinois, that's going to be safe. I think that's Dick Durbin's seat, I think. Yeah. Illinois will be safe. Mississippi, I think, will be safe. Cindy Heitsmith isn't really the best candidate, but I think she'll win there, no problem. Alabama we'll come back to. Georgia's races we'll come back to. Lindsey Graham, I think, is safe in South Carolina. I know we've seen some internal early polling that shows maybe it might be a contested race. I don't buy it at all. Lindsey Graham, I think, is going to win there in a safe margin. Tennessee, I think, will be safe. Kentucky, I want to talk about a little more. West Virginia will be safe. Delaware and New Jersey both will be safe. Rhode Island will be safe. Massachusetts, the primary, I think it's going to be Joe Kennedy who wins the primary and goes on to win that Senate seat. So I don't really need to talk about Massachusetts too much, but I do think that Joe Kennedy will be the senator out of there. And New Hampshire and Maine I want to talk about. So I have the Republicans and Democrats both getting 42 seats, 42-42. All the states in gold are states that I think not really are competitive, but that I just really want to take a more in-depth look into. Because the first one I'll get right off the bat is Virginia. I don't really think Virginia is going to be competitive, but I think Virginia could be a state that it could be like 2014 if the turnout goes very well for President Trump more than we think. Virginia could potentially be competitive. I do think Virginia is safe. I just want to make a note of it that if there's going to be a Senate race that's surprisingly a lot closer than a lot of people think, that doesn't flip but almost does, it could be like Virginia, which almost happened back in 2014 to Mark Warner. I don't think it will, but I'm just saying I want to talk about that a little more. The next state that this might get some people mad, I honestly think Kentucky's going to be a safe margin. It's going to be very, very borderline likely to safe. However, I think Mitch McConnell is very unpopular, but in a nationalized presidential election, on a very split partisan election, I mean, the country is very divided, very tribal right now. I don't see that Mitch McConnell getting voted out in this election. Amy McGrath really isn't as popular as a lot of Democrats thought she was at the beginning. And Mitch McConnell, honestly, he's got enough fundraising power and influence to get reelected again. Whether you like that or dislike that, I'm not going to really comment my own view on that. But I think Mitch McConnell is going to get reelected, and I think it'll probably be by a safe margin, I'd say. The next state I want to go on to is New Hampshire. New Hampshire, I said early on that if Corey Lewandowski was the Republican nominee, I think it has potential to get a lot closer. However, Corey Lewandowski decides not to run. There really isn't a notable Republican candidate, and Jeanne Shaheen is very popular in the state, so Jeanne Shaheen's probably going to win by a likely close to safe margin, but I think just because of the presidential election, it'll probably be a likely margin. Next, I'll go to Alabama. I have 100% confidence in the world in this one. Alabama is going to be a win, either likely or safe. It really depends on who wins the GOP primary. If Tommy Tuberville wins a primary, I think it's going to be a safe win for the Republicans. If Jeff Sessions wins, I think it's going to be likely. However, I'm just putting in the likely column now because I don't know what's going to happen yet. But I think Doug Jones only won last time because Roy Moore was terrible and turnout was very low. I mean, anyone who's telling you the Democrats are going to win here is just wrong. Doug Jones is going to lose in very conservative Alabama. Next, I'll go to the state of Minnesota. I think Minnesota at this time could be competitive because Jason Lewis is a good candidate. However, I don't think all of the riots and protests and stuff that were going on in Minnesota, I don't really think it necessarily helps Republicans in the Senate race. I don't think it terribly hurts them either. I think it kind of is like a wash for the Senate race, considering that it's a Democratic state. Tina Smith is relatively popular. She doesn't really get in too many headlines, which doesn't really hurt her in any way. I think Minnesota is a likely state right now for the Democrats, but one that's kind of like Virginia. It could get close and could be the surprise of the night, maybe. The next state is the state of Kansas. This all depends on whether or not Chris Kobach wins the GOP primary. I mean, everyone will tell you the same thing. If Chris Kobach wins the primary, this race goes from a likely to safe GOP state to a lean Republican, maybe even a toss-up race. Chris Kobach is not very popular. I still think he'd win in this turnout in this national election by about 2 or 3 points, maybe. I think the other guy, Marshall, is leading in the polls right now. So I'm going to put Kansas for now in the likely column. However, if it is Chris Kobach, I at the bare minimum start Kansas in the lean column and don't see the margin getting any bigger than that. However, I'm going to play devil's advocate for now and say Marshall wins the primary, and I'll put Kansas in the likely Republican seat. The next state I want to go over, which state? I think Texas is going to go to. John Cornyn is more popular than Ted Cruz. I think he won the Hispanic vote last time I heard that. So I don't think John Cornyn is going to have that hard of a race, considering the Democrats didn't really field a notable candidate. Like if it was Julian Castro or Joaquin Castro or Beto O'Rourke, maybe it could be a lean race for the GOP for John Cornyn. However, I think John Cornyn is popular enough; he'll win this in a likely margin. It won't be. It'll be closer than last time around, but it won't be too hard. I do expect a lot of money to be spent in Texas, though. Next, I want to go into Colorado. This all depends on who the nominee is, honestly. I think that if it's Cory Gardner versus John Hickenlooper, which is the most likely scenario, I see Cory Gardner, one-term senator. He will lose. He got a plurality of the vote in a low turnout election that favored Republicans in 2014. Cory Gardner does not have much of a chance. The margin is the question is really what margin it is. Is it going to be likely? Is it going to be lean? Is it going to be safe? We don't know. I think right now, especially how the election is right now, I think there's not going to be many vote splits in Colorado. There's not going to be many people who vote for Bernie who vote for Biden in Colorado that voted for Biden over Trump. Then they're going to say, let's vote for Gardner over Hickenlooper. Former governor, popular governor. I think Hickenlooper is probably going to be Cory Gardner. If it is I think the guy's named Andrew Romanoff. I think it gets closer. I think he probably starts in the lean Democrat category. Cory could potentially win in that scenario, but I really see Colorado going blue, no matter who the candidate is, to be honest. The next state I want to go over is Arizona. Arizona, I think Mark Kelly's going to win this state. Martha McSally, for some reason, she is just not a popular candidate in Arizona. She ran twice. She's going to lose twice. Republicans need to nominate someone in 2022. I think this race is back up. That's when the term expires. They need to nominate a Republican who is not Martha McSally. That's all they need to do, and they have a much better chance of winning this race. However, Martha McSally is going to lose for the second time in 2 years, and I'm pretty confident in that call right now. The state of Georgia, both seats I'm going to put in the Republican lean column, and here's why. I didn't realize polling between John Ossoff and David Perdue was as close as it was. I was putting that seat in the likely column. However, it does show signs that it is getting close, and especially with all the protests going on in Georgia, and I think the police officer shooting the man with a taser, shooting him in the back. That's definitely going to spew Democratic turnout. Democratic turnout is going to increase in Georgia. That I think makes both races closer. However, I think Doug Collins does have a better chance at winning the special election because the Democratic candidates, I did a video on that a few months ago, aren't really as notable as John Ossoff is. So just name recognition alone, I think Doug Collins is an easier path than David Perdue does. However, I think both states do ultimately go in the lean Republican column at the end of the day. Now on to Michigan. I think Gary Peters will beat John James. That was a voice cracker there. I think Gary Peters will beat John James. John James is a very good Republican candidate, probably the best Republican candidate Republicans can get for the Senate seat. I still think it would have been smarter for John James not to run for Senate, where the chances of him running or winning were very, very low. He should have just ran for governor in 2 years. That way, he only has losing once on his resume. Even if he loses, I think he'll run for governor in 2 years anyway. But the fact that he's lost twice, probably, and he's going to run for a third time for governor, it doesn't really look as well. You start to question how long is he going to keep losing for, or can he actually win? If I were John James, I would have said hold off until the governor's election, where Republicans have a much better chance of winning statewide than for Senate in Michigan. So I think Gary Peters will win 48-48 as it is right now. Iowa, I think Iowa could be close. It could be likely. I do think Joni Ernst will win, though. I think Joni Ernst will win. The question really is what margin it goes in. It could be lean. It could be likely. It's really going to be close. I'm going to put it in lean for now, though, just because I don't really know if the election turnout stays the way it is now. I assume things will get better from now till November for Republicans and President Trump because, frankly, they really can't get any worse. But then again, it is 2020, so who knows? Everything's been kind of getting worse, so who knows? But I'll put Joni Ernst in the Republican lean column for now. And we have the next three states: Montana, North Carolina, and Maine. These three are honestly, truly toss ups. These three I could see going either way. And it's honestly, I've never seen it where Montana, Maine, and North Carolina really could flip either way in my mind. And it's just so weird seeing Montana as like a toss up. It's very weird. But these three states can flip either way. I can't stress that enough. I know whichever way I put them, half of my subscribers, half of my people in the comments are going to be mad at me. The other half are going to agree with me. But honestly, these three could go either way. I just think Montana, Steve Daines, incumbent U.S. Senator, on the ballot at the same time as President Trump. President Trump will win Montana. That being said, Steve Bullock, former governor, relatively pretty popular in the state of Montana. It's going to be so close. It's going to be like Rick Scott versus Bill Nelson. It's going to be really, really close. It's going to go down to the wire. I'm honestly not sure. I want to say because Trump's going to win, it's going to tilt for Steve Daines. But honestly, Montana is one I need to keep revisiting because I really am not sure this time how that's going to go. Maine and North Carolina, both are showing early internal polls that Democrats are winning in these states. However, I think Susan Collins right now actually has a better chance than a few months ago at winning. I think she has kind of strayed away from the president. She stayed very quiet during this time, and I really don't think that necessarily hurts her in Maine. If she can win enough of the independents back, I think she can win her Senate race. I think she tilt wins in Maine. I think she probably wins by 1 point, about the same margin as Montana, maybe. I really think Susan Collins is a narrow, narrow edge, but very, very slightly. Now, North Carolina, honestly, is really, really close. Could be the closest of the three. North Carolina, President Trump, I think, will win it. A lot of things have to go wrong for him. A lot of these polls showing that Trump's going to lose these like swing states now. I'm not buying most of them. Election polling from like 4 months out is not very reliable. Look back at 2016. However, North Carolina has this weird thing about not re-electing incumbents for some reason. Like Tom Tillis ran against, I think her name was Kay Hagan. She lost. Kay Hagan ran against the incumbent Republican at that time, and I'm pretty sure I forget if it was I can't think of her name, but I think she lost that race too. North Carolina has this weird thing about not re-electing incumbents. I don't know why. So I'm tempted not to give it to Tom Tillis, but then again, I'm also tempted to give it to Tom Tillis, which doesn't make really any sense, but I am kind of tempted to do it. I don't know. It's really tough. Tom Tillis is relatively popular, not super popular. Increased turnout. Cal Cunningham's doing pretty good. Honestly, this might be a shocker. I kind of see North Carolina narrowly going to Cal Cunningham in the Tilcom. This is a call I haven't previously made before. I see Tom Tillis winning this race. However, at this moment in time, with the historical trends of North Carolina, I honestly could see Cal Cunningham narrowly edging out a win over Tom Tillis here and giving the Republicans a one-seat majority of 51 to 49 in the U.S. Senate come 2021. So I think that is my up-to-date current prediction now. And I think a lot of things will probably change from now to Election Day. Whenever the debates happen, if they do happen, I think those definitely impact President Trump and the Republicans more positively than the Democrats do. I expect Biden will get killed in the debates. Will the Senate map change from that? Maybe, maybe not, because the Senate doesn't really have to do with Biden versus Trump. It's more Republicans versus Democrats. So we'll see if that changes it. But for now, I have Republicans at 51, Democrats at 49. Thank you so much for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.